We're going to have Tammy with us today, and of course, she's an author, publisher, radio host, a little bit of everything, really. And she's just done a lot of things. And what I'd like to do at first is to let Tammy tell us a little bit about herself and some of the things that she's done. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my background in a nutshell is I'm a former newspaper editor, news director for TV, and PR person. And I actually had one of the very first real estate TV shows in the United States back in the mid-'80s. It was called Gulf Coast Property Review, and it was a real estate TV show. Wow. And I learned the hard way how to produce 30-minute TV shows. And my best story about it is, 30 minutes of real estate advertising. My show was Nielsen and Arbitron rated #1 in the time slot of 8:30 to 9 Saturday mornings for women 25 to 45. That's my big claim to fame, that I had an advertising show that had Arbitron and Nielsen ratings #1 in its time slot. So everything that I've done, I have a foundation in education. I have a master's in mass communications and creative writing and business and instructional technology. So that's how I kind of wove my background together. And I worked in newspapers, TV, etc. until 2009, when I couldn't take the job anymore, and I decided I had to become an entrepreneur. I had to become self-employed because I had all of these ideas, big ideas, money-making ideas, and I would give them to the newspaper, and they would make all these special edition magazines and news products and make a bunch of money, and I still made my little $16 an hour, and I was managing 10 people. Yeah. And that was in 2009. So think about it. What does that tell you? It's low wages in the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. But I just knew that I was meant for something much bigger. So I started to really study Facebook. I studied Pinterest. I actually wrote a book in 2012. It was called, and it's out of date, Ask Tammy, Pinterest for Business. And this was back when you still had to have an invitation to get on Pinterest. But I could see that it had big applications for business, and it does. So along the way, I became a social media consultant, helping local businesses with Facebook marketing, video marketing, and video marketing is something that is one of my, I'd say my primary expertises, because I firmly believe that video is a foundation, and it can be a foundation of all your marketing because of the fact that you have audio, video, and you can just multi-purpose it or repurpose it. For example, this interview could be turned into a book or a book chapter, and I could use it. I could promote myself and you on Facebook, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms. And so I really see video as a foundation of all things. And along the way, I actually created some online training programs for Jack Hopman, and I did Mobile Wizard Pro, Video Marketing Pro, Local Website Hero, and maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of those products were sold. So it was funny because I didn't even think about the fact that when people were buying those products and I was training them to be social media or website marketing consultants, that I was actually helping to create all of these people who would go out and become marketing consultants for local businesses. And there are thousands of people who took my course. So that was cool. And then I also created the social media certification course for Florida Gulf Coast University. And actually that course just started today. It's an online course, and according to the records, I need to go in and see, but it said the course was full. So I'm like, yay! So I need to go in and see who's in there. But so many people here are worried about the hurricane that I doubt people are actually going to start working in the course today, even though they could. So I also have the radio shows. I started out as a host for Business Innovators Radio, and I interview business people, professionals, men and women. That grew into Women Innovators, where I interview women innovators, leaders, makers, and givers, women who make a daily difference. That has become a book series, and I'm getting ready to come out with book number 7. And I think there's a book number 8. And then I also have a Big Message, Big Mission series that grew from that. And I help people become international best-selling authors. And what makes me different than all the other publishers out there is that I also now offer what I call beyond the bestseller, the marketing campaigns, and I teach people how to actually use the book to get more speaking engagements, to grow their business, to grow their list, their email list. And so that's a little bit about my background. And I recently spoke at the Harvard Faculty Club.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I went to the Business Expert Forum and was a featured speaker there. And what was so cool about that is I was with all of these other speakers, people who either were already authors or best-selling authors, or there were doctors, financial advisors, different people like that. And the cool thing is I put together what I call a leverage marketing package for myself with press coverage, and I interview people for Forbes and Huffington Post and LinkedIn, and I did some things for myself, and then I was able to say, hey, this worked for me. Do you want this too? And many people said yes. And so my Get Media Exposure program that I developed, which is literally a lifetime of knowledge of being in the publishing business, the media business, has really exploded, and I'm looking at 2018 as being a super year for not only publishing, but for helping people take it beyond the bestseller, because a lot of people think that becoming a bestseller is the ultimate end, but really it's the beginning. It's the beginning to use it as a tool.
And that's, I will say, that is truly one of the ways that you are different, because so many people say, you need to get published, let me help you write a book. And that's all they do, you know, but you really guide people, and you do a lot to get coverage for them as you're going through the process. And then you emphasize some of these things like what you were talking about. You know, for example, I remember when you were in my telesummit and you talked about how, just what you just said, taking a video and getting it transcribed and turning it into a book. And I never thought about that. And I thought, well, that's a no-brainer, you know? And so you, like you say, because of your background, you know some of these tricks of the trade, so to speak. And you know, that was one of the questions I was going to ask is, you know, people do, you're constantly hearing, oh, you got to get published, you got to write a book. Why is that important as an entrepreneur for someone to do?
There are several reasons that a book is so important in today's world. Number one, people value authors and books. There's something about somebody who can take an idea out of their head and put it onto paper and get published. And the process of publishing used to be very difficult. When you wrote a book, you had to get an agent, you had to get a publisher, you had to jump through hoops to get a book published. Well, today it's not that difficult because you can publish on Kindle and Amazon is there to help you to publish. But the reason a book is so vital for any entrepreneur, professional, business person is because it shows you're an expert. If you can write a book about it or have a chapter about it, that tells other people you're an expert. It gives you authority, credibility. And credibility is very important. For example, if you write a book and I invite you to be on my show, I'm telling the world, hey, this person is important enough and has a message and a mission important enough to share, so I'm lending my credibility to that person. So that's third person credibility. It's the same concept in newspapers. If you have a business story written about you, and almost any business person will tell you they will get more business from an editorial or a written article about them than a paid ad, because people know, oh, they paid for that ad. An article in a newspaper, magazine, or even online, it's like, oh, they're in an article, they're quoted, so that they're getting that third person credibility. For example, being invited to speak at Harvard Faculty Club is a good example. It's saying, oh, your message is important enough for you to come to this business expert forum at Harvard Faculty Club to speak. And so you get that credibility from the place, you know, the proximity of place. So Harvard or NASDAQ, if you were to speak at NASDAQ or Coca-Cola or Microsoft or Google, you know, people would say, wow, that's pretty good. You're moving on up. So that's important. And then celebrity. Authors are celebrities. Even, for example, I have a friend who helps people publish books, and many of his clients are people who write about the history of the area, and yet they'll get a packed house when they show up to talk about their book because people are interested. And the fact, again, that they did all that research and history, it's very fascinating to people, and authors are held in high esteem. Often, if you're a speaker, or if you're trying to close a deal and everything's there, you are, you're just as good as the next person, they have a book, you don't, guess who's going to get booked to speak? The person with the book. The reason is again, it's the perception that you have jumped over a hurdle. It's just like when people work to get a PhD, a doctorate. It's a higher level than a master's degree. And if you've ever watched the Big Bang series, you know how they're all PhDs, and then Howard Wolowitz is a master's degree in engineering because they don't offer a PhD in engineering. And they're always giving him a hard time, even though he's probably just as smart, if not smarter, than them, because he's applying all that knowledge to real things. Yet they're picking on him. So people go, oh, what did you do? What does it really mean? What's a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree? It means you jumped through all these hoops and you got up to a certain level. The same thing with authors of a book. Again, it's about opening up your reach, your authority, your credibility, your celebrity, and then, of course, it empowers you to grow not only your personal footprint in the real world, but it allows you to grow your online footprint. And I wanted to mention You were in one of the Women Innovators books also, and one of the things that's really important that some people don't know, and this is like put a gold star next to this tip, the Author Central pages, where you actually can create an Author Central page in Amazon, not only for the United States, but for, I think it's 7 other countries. And what that is equivalent to is having 7 websites in the Amazon platform connecting to your books and to your blogs, your photographs and videos, so people can look you up and you'll have more clout, because now you're borrowing whose credibility? Amazon's. So that's really important. That's a good example of why a book can really be powerful.
Yeah, and that is a tip that you gave us whenever I participated. It was in one of your books, and I had no idea that even existed, and so I went in there and, did exactly what you told me to do, because I knew you knew what you were talking about.
Thank you.
And one other question is, now with publishing and so forth and the things that we've talked about, how could Pinterest be used in that capacity, in that respect?
Wow. Well, you know more about Pinterest than I do, but here's a couple ideas about how I would foresee using it. So you can make graphics related to your book, and of course you can link them back wherever you want those Pinterest graphics to link back to. You could you could read excerpts of your book on video or audio and connect those to your Pinterest, and again link back. The power of Pinterest, I think, is in the fact that you can connect it to websites, you can connect it to other places, and then of course on Pinterest people also share a lot of pins, and they like to share and build boards. Mm-hmm. So you can actually have your Pinterest boards, and if you have more than one book, obviously you can have a Pinterest mm-hmm. board for each book title. You could break it down into chapters. Again, you can make graphics, the videos, the photos. Pinterest is just like so visual, and people who are Pinterest users really like to play on Pinterest, and you can make money from them because they actually will go and buy things off of those Pinterest boards.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think of like publishing a book, like bloggers, because bloggers love Pinterest, those that really know what they're doing, and all, because what it does is it helps to drive a lot of traffic to your blog, and some people don't even think about that. Another thing that I say is that a lot of people don't realize that business people do research on Pinterest for given time.
I do.
So, it's a place where, everybody wants to be an authority in their field. Well, it's a place to help establish that authority by doing some of the things like you said, and even, like creating some quotes from the book, all sorts of things that you could do to appeal to your target audience. And because that's what's important. And I like what you said about that Pinterest does a good job of driving traffic to the website, because sometimes when I'm working with people, for some reason they think that Pinterest is supposed to sell. Well, no, your website's got to be ready for Pinterest to drive traffic, and then it do its job, or you collect the leads, that sort of thing. Just like any marketing tool, I think they fail to realize that's what it really is a marketing tool.
Right, and a book is a marketing tool.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's a really good point about a book. And I don't like to burst people's bubbles about their fantasies and dreams about, I'm going to retire and become a best-selling author and be a New York Times best-selling author, if you look at your odds, your odds are not that great to become a best-selling author who makes a lot of money. For example, you can become an international best-selling author on Amazon if you know how to choose the proper categories and you are positioned correctly. Becoming the New York Times best-selling author is a whole different category of bestseller, and those are based on book sales to bookstores out in the physical world. And then, of course, there's other bestseller places, and the difference between an international best-selling author on Amazon is the algorithm is literally done by the hour. In book sales by the hour. New York Times is done by like weekly sales, and you have to sell a lot of books to get into the New York Times bestseller list, and you don't have to sell that many to be in an Amazon bestseller list, but it's still, the clout and the credibility is still there, and it's real. Don't let anyone, number one, tell you, oh, it's easy to become an international best-selling author on Amazon. It's not easy. It takes a knowledge of choosing the right category, the right day to promote it, and selling a certain number of books. And to become an international bestseller, obviously, it has to sell in Canada, the United Kingdom, Mexico, Japan, wherever Amazon has it. And so often I hear these people like poo-pooing the international best-selling status, and it's still 100% legitimate status. And just because you might be an internet marketer or in that very small group of people, we often think that the rest of the world knows everything we know, and the truth is they don't.
They don't.
And so out in the real world, being an author is still really cool. Being an international best-selling author is really cool. And yes, if you by chance do get picked up by a publisher, that would be really cool. But you know what? They're going to expect you to go out and do book signings and go and promote yourself, do your social media campaigns. They'll publish your book. They'll get it printed and everything, and they'll get it out there in certain ways. But you, as the author, you still have to work. It isn't like you just write a book and all this money just comes to you. You have to get out and promote it. And the best way to make money from a book, again, it's not by selling a bunch of books. It's by using the book as a tool to open doors. What is your overall reason you wrote a book? What is your expertise? For example, with the Women Innovators books, everyone who was interviewed, they were talking about their business, who they help, and every single one of those people have the opportunity to get a physical book. And I have a book, and I wish I had it somewhere here, but I have a book called Ask Tammy, 365 Social Media Tips, Tricks, and Tools. I've probably sold 100 of those books. But I take that book with me and I hold it in my hand when I speak, and I've probably made $500,000 from that book over the course of a few years. Why? Because it positioned me as a social media expert. I've been interviewed on television around the country. Why? Because I talk about social media and Facebook and Pinterest and all of the other platforms. And I some of the cutest segments, I did one that was really fun called, Are You Addicted to Facebook? That was fun. How to spring clean your Facebook. I did one, how to find love on Facebook, and I've never used Facebook for that, but I got booked on like 2 or 3 TV shows.
Oh, I bet.
For how to find love on Facebook. And so the thing about it is what did that do for me in terms of my authority, my credibility, and my pocketbook, my impact, my influence, my income? It has made it so that people go, oh, talk to Tammy. Mm-hmm. Ask Tammy about that. You want a book published? Oh, talk to Tammy. She'll tell you which direction to go. And that's another thing. When people talk to me about books, I ask them, okay, what are your goals? Mm-hmm. Do you want, will a question and answer book, frequently asked question book, be more useful to you to help promote you and your business? If so, do that. Would a ghost written book, meaning written as if you wrote it, telling your story, would that be worth it? What is this for? If you're just writing your memoirs to give to your children, I might just say, if I were you, I would record it and get it transcribed and then edit it and just, make it for yourself. But if you're serious about making real money from your book, it is not going to be from selling a bunch of books. I mean, most of us are not J.K. Rowling. We're not Stephen King. And most of us, we're not writing fiction books either. That's a whole nother genre. Mm-hmm. Nonfiction business books. People are hungry for the information. Mm-hmm. But really what people really want from you is they want you to provide value to them, and they want to know that when they speak to you, that you're the one. And I call it blue ocean authority. And because blue ocean strategy is that you create something and you become the only choice in the sea of opportunities, and that you're dealing in something that's more rare and more unique. You're not a commodity. Mm-hmm. And that's what a book can do for you. It'll take you from being treated like a commodity where it's all about low price, mm-hmm. or I want more for less. When you have a book, you are seen as, oh my God, I want what she's got, I want what he's got, and I'm willing to pay what the value is, not, commodity. And I learned that lesson the hard way, which was some of my clients treated me like I was a commodity, like I was some person calling them on the phone from India saying, I'll do that for $99. Mm-hmm. And some of my clients said, well, gee, I can get what you do for $99. And I said, no, you can't. Mm-hmm. No, I said, I'm sorry, but when you get me, you get my brains and my experience, and your $99 is for a commodity thing. Like, I'll host your website for $99. Right. Mm-hmm. And when they worked with me, they get all of the thoughts, all of the marketing info, the current up-to-date, what's going on right now that's going to make you cutting edge. Right. And so I had to fire some clients because it's like, well, you want a commodity, go for it. And then I just said, it's like you had your chance. Right. And now it's like, sorry, I wouldn't work with you because you didn't value me. And I think that's really important for everyone, that you want, why are you out there working in the first place? It's because you have something valuable to bring to the table. And again, everything I'm talking about all ties in to why you would want to publish a book, mm-hmm. Why you might want to do Facebook Lives, why you might want to have a podcast, why would you create content in the first place, either via video or audio or in writing. It's because everything will build the solid foundation, and it grows your online footprint as well as your real world presence. So I see everything as, I call it a new media mash, where it's old school media meets new technology and media, and you do a mashup. And of course, the synergistic effect of all that is, boom, you grow in your status, your value goes up, and you'll attract better clients. And again, we could probably talk on that topic alone, because I've really had a phenomenal insight and about attracting higher level clients, and everybody wants, what did people say if you ask them, what type of client do you want? And they all say, I want people who have money. I want higher paying clients. And my mantra, I even have a cat. I have two cats. One's name is Clarity. One's name is Cash Flow. So what do I want? Clarity and cash flow. But what I learned when I went to speak at Harvard Faculty Club at the Business Experts Forum, and it was a really valuable lesson, because I knew that I go to different events, and it's like sometimes you come back and you go, well, why did I do that? The people there were not my people. The people there, they didn't value what I had to offer. And when I was at Harvard, I was like, wow, I'm talking to people who really get me. They understand when I'm talking about leveraging the power of being at that Harvard Business Expert Forum there. They understood all of that. And even last year, I went to the Women's Prosperity Network, which is headquartered in Fort Lauderdale. And they have a big unconference every year in October. And it was my first experience. And I went there and I listened. They had a bunch of phenomenal speakers. And I started to talk to the women in the audience, and I met a bunch of people. And that group of women, there were like 350, and Nancy Matthews, Trish Carr, and Susan, I think it's Winner, Susan Winner, they're sisters. And it was like, wow, I found my people. Yeah. And when you find your people, your whole world will change. And a lot of those people actually became part of the Women Innovators book projects. A lot of them are in a new project I have called Big Message, Big Mission, that's coming out soon. And then a lot of people from Harvard. I have a show called The Thought Leaders Show and Women Innovators. And I have a medical show coming up called Optimal Health. And I met a lot of doctors up there also. So everything that I've done, if I look at my entire life path, I started with the Girl Scout News in third grade, and of course built this journey. I was a printer. I had a TV show. I worked for magazines. I worked for newspapers. I went to college. I tried all of these different things, and of course jumped on social media because of course I knew, hey man, if I didn't learn how to do social media, I'd be left behind, and then where would I be? Right. Because millennials and all these young people, they grow up with a cell phone, from the time they're infants. And of course I had the princess phone and a typewriter, and cassette tapes. So, I had to keep moving with technology and learning. But, and I know that I talk a lot. All I can tell you about publishing, and I do think it's important, if you want to be seen, be heard, writing a book or speaking a book is one of the fastest things you can do. Now, here's an idea for all of you, and you know, take it or leave it. But I produce podcasts. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is when I produce a podcast, and Women Innovators is a prime example, I offer the opportunity for people to take that interview and turn it into a book chapter for one of the Women Innovators books. So if you had a podcast or a Facebook Live summit or a telesummit or a summit, why not say, hey, you want to be in a book? You transcribe it, turn it into a book, boom, credibility, run a bestseller campaign on it, international best-selling status, do the press on it, go get interviewed on more podcasts, rinse and repeat, and you can grow what I would call a media empire with that. And even Gary Vaynerchuk, who is not my favorite guy, he's, you know, he cusses a lot, but I was listening to some of my video training from 2011, and guess what I was saying in 2011? I was basically saying, hey, you should make videos to be the foundation of your marketing. And now I'm adding to it, make videos, make podcasts, write books, turn podcasts and videos into books, and then you grow that media presence. And just like that Author Central page, they give you, you can link all your books, you can link your blogs to it, you can link your website to it, photos to it, videos, audios. Use what Amazon is giving you. Of course, still have your own properties, but use Facebook, use LinkedIn, use Pinterest, use all of these free platforms. I said the F-R-E-E word, to your advantage. Meanwhile, of course, you want to keep your stuff also on your own platform in case, you know, YouTube or whatever, you know, somebody says, don't like you anymore, see ya, or they go out of business. Most of these bigger platforms, I doubt they're going to go out of business, but of course they could do, you know, who knows what, they could change a policy, and all of a sudden you'd be going, I mean, I've known people on YouTube where all of a sudden their YouTube gets locked or something, and they don't even know why. And or people, it's happened on Facebook too, where all of a sudden Facebook will shut you down, and you don't even know why they did it. So you always want to protect yourself, but creating books is, I would say, one of the most useful tools, and that's why you have these coaches who say, you should write a book. But many of the coaches, they don't know how to do it, because they're acting as a coach going, well, you should do this, but they don't necessarily know how to do it for themselves. And I'm someone who, I've done it. Everything that I teach or preach or whatever, it's like I did it for myself or for someone else first, and then I can say, okay, now I know how to do this and tweak it. And there's so many things you can do that it is overwhelming. So if I were to say, okay, stop, choose one thing and focus on it, just like Pinterest. Pinterest may not be ideal for every single person, but it certainly is very ideal for many types of businesses. And if, for example, let's just use an odd one, like an accountant wanted to use Pinterest, they could use Pinterest if they actually thought about it and borrowed some of the marketing techniques from, say, how a photographer might use Pinterest, or a fashionista, or a shoe person, or somebody who has visuals at their fingertips. An accountant, if they could just kind of go, and kind of reverse engineer it and figure out how they could apply that to themselves, and they probably could end up being very successful using Pinterest if they thought about it. But because they can't go with, oh, I'm an accountant, it won't work for me.
Right.
You know, people sometimes they don't look at things that could work for them because they get, you know, they put themselves in this little box. And if you open up your mind to looking at every single thing and going, well, does that work for me? Should I try that? And like I said, not everything is going to work for everybody, but I think that you certainly could use, if you're using images and videos and other things, you would definitely want to play with Pinterest to see how it works for your business. And I think, I'm trying to remember, well, I know one of my clients, a jewelry store, we've done very well with Pinterest because I literally made all the boards of engagement rings and jewelry, and that's done very well with Pinterest.
Well, Tammy, we've run way over, but a lot of great information, and I appreciate it so much. And I will put her contact information here underneath the video so that you can contact her, because I'm here to tell you she knows how to do it right, and everything that she said is absolutely the truth. And the biggest takeaway you should have is, people will tell you you need to write a book, you should get published, but do they really know how to go about doing that the right way? And that's why Tammy's so good at it. And so thank you very much, Tammy. I appreciate it. And I will be talking to you again. And until tomorrow at 7 p.m., this is Anna the Pinterest Pro signing off and traveling on down the Pinterest Superhighway.
Woohoo! Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.